Interview confusion. Devon had sweat through her dress. She had known this would happen. In fact, it happened every time she wore it. It was the dress's fault. Its fake synthetic silk material trapped all the heat inside her body, and suddenly she had pit stains. She whipped her trusty cardigan out of her purse and prayed that by the time the interview was over, she wouldn't have sweat through that as well. She looked across the table at the interviewer. It was her second time in the office. She'd made it past the initial screening and was now meeting with her potential boss. The role wasn't what she wanted, but she didn't have any other option. She didn't even know what she wanted anymore, so who was she to be this picky? I see you did 5 years at the public theater. What led to the switch to corporate? It was a fair question. Devon had spent the better part of her 5 years building a solid reputation as a want to be Broadway producer. The public theater was a great place to kick off said career. She'd gotten to work with off Broadway shows that would eventually make their ways to their larger houses if they had the right team behind them. She had always wanted to be on the right team. It was the only way to keep moving up in the ranks. The theater community was so small that one wrong step and her reputation could be ruined. She thought of Rosie, their friendship blowing up in a glorious fashion that could only occur in the most dramatic of industries. It involved pyrotechnics, a screaming match, and of course, crying into her champagne. But that was long in the past. Things could get better. They just had to. To be honest, I got burnt out. The long hours at the theater until 10 or 11 at night were sustainable for the first few years, but by the end of it, I wanted more balance. This wasn't a lie. She really did get burned. The pyrotechnics had left the faintest scar on her leg when a piece of ash flew out and adhered itself to her shin. She dumbly ripped it off, taking the skin right off with it. Out of habit, she reached down and ran a hand over the spot. It was smoother now and didn't quite sting anymore, but she could still feel the phantom pain of the sharp, brief burn. I see. I see you left them a year ago. What have you been doing in the interim? The interviewer wasn't kind. Devon ignored it. She didn't care if she was kind at this point. All she wanted to know was if this woman could in fact provide her with a paycheck that would be enough for her to leave her parents' apartment, or alternatively afford the premium plan on Hinge so she could bag a rich husband. If she got the job, she would start a hedge fund husband hunting immediately. Well, I actually wrote a few screenplays. I also worked in television because I was thinking of moving to LA. Why are those not listed on your resume? She scanned the sheet of paper once again. Devon hesitated. In truth, it was because she had gotten fired from the set for failing to show up on time. Once was a free pass. 10 days in a row was inexcusable. I didn't want to mix medias. I understand that this role is for Broadway to commercial television crossover research, creating focus groups to discuss the potential of moving large-scale productions into a more user-friendly arenas like the TV special, or even potentially a multi-season show. She was impressed by the way the words flowed right out of her mouth. When she explained the role that way, it felt useful, as though she could actually make something of it. In actuality, the job description had been for a research coordinator, aka the poor soul that sits in the office all day scrolling through pitches to television studios looking for typos before sending it to the higher ups who actually did the meetings. She could tell the interviewer didn't like her. She didn't blame her. She didn't like herself either. It was clear as day that Devon had no idea what she was doing. The only confusing part was why she was even still in this conversation to begin with. Typically, she made it about two questions in. She would get to the part of why they asked why she left the public theater, and something in their faces would change. It's as though they could vaguely recall the New York Post article where she landed on page 6, her face partially obscured by the hand she was running through her hair from exasperation. She would wait patiently as they would change their tone and cough uncomfortably, the realization of who they were speaking to dawning on their faces. She would get one more question. It would be light and breezy like she had studied in school 5 years before. They would politely say something that they had come up with, and she would leave the conference room, never hearing from them again. The first few times it happened, she would send the customary thank you email with the classic, "I look forward to hearing from you." Her exclamation point would sit there mocking her as day after day as she never heard back. Eventually, she got the message. No one wanted to hire the girl who had made a mess of things in such a spectacular fashion. "I'm going to tell you what, Devon. You're not the right fit for me." Devon's shoulders visibly slumped as she tried to take a breath. She hadn't ever been told this out loud. She wasn't sure if she could take the brutal truth. "But I know who you would be perfect for. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to step out for a moment and call my colleague, and if they give me the okay, I'm going to hire you today. Does that sound all right?" Devon sat back astounded. She wasn't sure how hiring in the corporate world worked, but surely it couldn't be this simple. Yes? That would be great." The interviewer stepped outside, and Devon watched as she spoke in hushed tones, glancing frequently back through the conference room window. Devon averted her eyes and looked anywhere but at the door. She wasn't sure what this woman's deal was. She didn't even catch her name. This is what she got for going on Indeed and applying to a somewhat sketchy listing. She should know better than to interview at a random office on West 38th Street with only 4 people in it. The name of the company was Bibbs, for Pete's sake. What did that even mean? The door at the conference room opened, and she watched as the interviewer sat back down with a relaxed smile on her face. Good news, Devin. You have a job. She waited as Devin looked back at her blankly. That's great. Is it okay if I ask what it is? Oh, of course. You're going to be a walker. That's it. If you'd like to, of course. Devin nearly stood up and walked out of the room. She had come in here for a mediocre focus group job. How had she ended up as a dog walker? Sorry, I'm confused. A dog walker for who? Who? I don't understand. Who's your colleague? The interviewer was undeterred. In fact, she almost looked amused. Devin, can I ask you something? When you applied for this job, did you research the company? Devin shifted in her seat. Of course she hadn't. She had just read the $40 an hour and went for it. I didn't. I mean, I kind of did. I just didn't do, extensive research. Well, if you had, you would know that Bibbs is a subsidiary of CDI. Bibbs is a research group focused solely on figuring out what will or will not do well on Broadway. CDI is the largest shareholder of theaters in New York City. They happen to own a piece of every theater with the exception of 3. That's 38 theaters in total. Quite the portfolio, in my opinion. Devin stared wide-eyed back at her. This was a dicey situation. She couldn't be seen applying for a job in a theater again. Rosie would kill her. She would show up at her house and yell right at her. At a certain point, Devin would probably have to duck from the flying objects that would be hurled at her head. Within those 38 theaters, there's typically a production manager. They're responsible for overseeing the execution of the show and working with the owners, directors, stage crew, etc., etc. You get my point. You will be a walker to all of them. A walker, not a dog walker. Now she was even more confused. What is a walker? I've never heard about that job before. You've never heard about it because I just created it. Devin was wide-eyed. Who was this woman and how did she have all of this authority? Devin, you walked into this interview, said hello, and sat down at the table. I said hello, but you barely raised your eyes up to meet mine. I didn't bother telling you my name because, in all honesty, it didn't seem like you wanted to be here. But you have an impressive resume, despite the fact that it's filled with intern work. And I know your work from the public. I also read the article in the Post, but I'm going to take a chance on you because, frankly, you look like you need someone to give you a break, so this is it. Devin looked up from the table. She felt the waves of embarrassment course through her as she listened to this woman's assessment of her. It wasn't wrong at all. I'm so sorry. I really am. It's just been a really shitty year, and I know I should have done my research. I should have come prepared and not tried to get a paycheck from you. I don't deserve this job that you're offering, though. It's a very kind offer. I wouldn't hire me at all. She began to gather her things. Devin, sit down. Devin hovered in a half-standing, half-seated position. Please sit. Really, let me explain. Reluctantly, Devin sat back down. She braced herself for a further reprimand. She could only imagine what vitriol she would receive the longer she stayed. My name is Christine, and my husband is Dave. We're the Ingrams. You see, CDI, Christine and Dave Ingram. The recognition of the name began to dawn on Devin. Shit. The Ingrams were theater royalty. How could she be this stupid? Christine continued. When I stepped out earlier, I called Dave. He's in desperate need of someone on the ground to essentially walk back and forth between our theaters to do status updates on the day-to-day, hence the job title, Walker. You don't strike me as someone who likes to be stuck in an office, sitting at a desk, scrolling through research findings. A bit of movement and fresh air might do you some good. The role is hour-intensive, and you're expected to be at the theater from 8 a.m. to showtime every night. If you'd like to stay for the show, that's fine by us, but just know you won't be paid for those hours. You'll receive benefits such as healthcare, and the pay is $30 an hour. I recognize this is $10 less than the role you applied for, but given the nature of the work, I'll take it. Devin jumped in immediately. She didn't want Christine, her pseudo-fairy godmother, to take the offer off the table. Christine laughed. You don't even know what the job is. I don't care. I'll take it. I'll do whatever you need me to do. Devin, I'm taking a chance on you. The only thing I ask you to do in return is pay it forward. You're not indebted to me and you don't owe me anything. If you don't like the job, my only request is that you give myself or Dave 2 days' notice. Like I said before, this is an interesting role and it's one we're all trying to figure out what to make of. I picture it as a mutual test run for everyone involved. I'm in. Christine, thank you so much. When do I start? Dave will meet you outside the Gershwin next week. Dress code is casual, but I might suggest sneakers. You'll be doing a lot of walking. With that, she winked and reached across the table to shake Devin's hand. After profusely thanking Christine over and over again, Devin took the elevator back down to the ground floor and exited onto 38th Street. She looked left and right in complete disbelief. She had gotten a job and in the theater, no less. Granted, she had absolutely no idea what she was doing, but no matter. Come 10 a.m. on Monday, she'd be a working woman again.